Over the last couple weeks, we have been talking about different ways to solve quadratic equations. So we started with factoring, we then moved into taking square roots, and last week we worked on completing the square. And before we get into our fourth and final step, I want to talk about the discriminant. Okay, we're going to talk about the discriminant. So, the discriminant tells you the number and type of solutions you are going to have. So as we've been working and solving quadratic equations, we've had whole number solutions, fraction solutions. We've had solutions that have had I in the answer that have been imaginary, ones that have had square roots. Those are called irrational solutions. So we've had a lot of different options there. Okay, so in order to find the discriminant of a problem, we are going to use b squared minus 4 times a times c. Now we should all be familiar with what a, b, and c are, but just in case, remember we have standard form for a quadratic equation, and standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. If it is not in this form where everything's together, so ax squared plus bx plus c, you cannot identify a, b, and c, so you won't be able to find the discriminant. So it's important that you write everything in standard form first, okay? But then we're going to use, again, b squared minus 4ac to find the number of solutions and the type of solutions that we get. So here are our 3 different cases. If we get a positive number, okay, so any positive number, when we plug it into b squared minus 4ac, then there are 2 real solutions. Our second possibility is if we get 0. So if 0 comes out when we plug it into b squared minus 4ac, then there is 1 real solution. Okay, and when I say real solutions, I mean something that doesn't have an I, that does not have an imaginary number. Okay. And then our last possibility is if we get a negative number. So if we get a negative number, then there are 2 imaginary solutions. Okay. And the reason it would be imaginary, let's just kind of remind ourselves. Remember that if you take the square root of -1, that negative turns into an I, so the square root of any negative number means you're going to pull out an I. Okay? All right, so let's try a couple. Let's look at n squared plus 4n minus 21 equals 0. So we have an equation because eventually we're going to solve, but again, right now we're just determining how many solutions we have, and we're going to determine what the discriminant is. So whatever we get out of this will actually be our answer for the discriminant. So first things first, is my equation in standard form? So I have ax squared plus bx plus c. It's okay that the variable is an n. Okay, so we're in standard form. Next step is going to be to identify a, b, and c. So a is the number in front of your squared term, so n squared would be a 1. B is 4, c is negative 21. So identify a, b, and c. We're then literally going to plug a, b, and c into b squared minus 4 times a times c. So b squared, 4 squared, minus 4 times a times c. Simplify. So 4 squared is 16. This negative goes with that 4. So it's negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4. And then negative 4 times a negative 21 is a positive 84. So I simplified 4 squared, and then I simplified this bit here. Combine like terms, 16 plus 84 gives me 100. That is my discriminant. Okay, so 100 is my discriminant. So I'm going to take this and look up here and see which one of those three it matches. It's a positive number, so that means I'm going to have 2 real solutions. I have a positive number, so there are 2 real solutions. All right, let's try another one. Let's look at 4p squared minus 10p plus 10 equals 0. If I were you, I would pause the video and try it, identify your A, B, and C, see if you can plug it in to the discriminant and see what your discriminant is and how many solutions you're going to have and type of solutions you're going to have. So again, if I were you, I would pause it and try it on your own. As soon as you're done, restart the video. All right, I am in standard form, so ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm going to identify my a, which is 4, b is negative 10, c is positive 10. And I'm going to plug that into my discriminant. So b squared, so negative 10 squared, minus 4 times a times c. One thing at a time. Negative 10 squared is a positive 100. Negative 4 times positive 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 times 10 is a negative 160. 100 minus 160 gives me negative 60 for my discriminant. So again, if I come back up here, I have a negative number, which means I'm going to have 2 imaginary solutions. Okay? So you should have gotten 2 imaginary solutions. All right, let's try 2 more. Let's do x squared plus 4x equals negative 4. So we're going to start here. Okay, so again, we're checking to see if it's in standard form. I know it's not because I have this constant term over here that I'm going to need to move to the other side. Okay, because right now I have an ax squared plus bx, but I don't have that c. So I need to move this negative 4 to the other side, so we're going to add 4, giving us x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. So really, if you can set that equation to 0, you know you're going to have it in standard form, as long as you write everything in the proper order. So when I identify A, B, and C, so A is 1, B is 4, and C is 4. And I'm going to plug it into b squared minus 4ac. So 4 squared minus 4 times A times C. 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times a positive 4 is negative 16. 16 minus 16 gives me 0. So my discriminant is 0, and I'm going to come back up here. 0 means I have one real solution. Okay. Last problem. Again, after I write this one down, if I were you, I would pause the video and see if you can solve it on your own first. So I'm going to give you 3x squared plus 1 equals negative 2x. So at this time, if I were you, I would pause the video and see if you can solve it. So write it in standard form, identify your A, B, and C, find the discriminant, and then how many solutions you have, and then type of solution. Looking at this problem, I know it's not in standard form. I know I need to move this negative 2x, so I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I can't combine it with anything, but I can rewrite it in standard form. So 3x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. Identify your A, your B, and your C. Once you know A, B, and C, we're going to plug it in. So B squared minus 4 times A times C. 2 squared is 4. I have negative 4 times 3, which is negative 12. Negative 12 times 1 is a negative 12. 4 minus 12 is a negative 8. And again, if you come back up top, a negative number tells me there are 2 imaginary solutions.